were looking for career advice from a career coach, and he had led teams that have placed over 6,000 pros in 21 industries, worked at the largest Fortune 500 recruitment firm in the world, was responsible for over $50 million of placements of executives, and was one of the top recruiters recognized nationally while serving in the United States Army. You'd probably say he's qualified. This is the Executive Career Upgrades Podcast. Career competition is fierce. If you're a director, a VP, or an executive, this podcast is for you. This is the Executive Career Upgrades Podcast. And this is your host, Tim Madden.
Hey everyone, how are you doing today? Hey, welcome to the Executive Career Upgrades Podcast. If you don't know me, my name's Tim Madden, and I help those targeting six figures or multiple six figures, right? And each week we talk about, hey, how can we find jobs we love quickly and a bunch of other cool stuff about corporate America. Hey, we go live each week inside the Executive Career Network as well, which is the fastest growing career network on Facebook. Check us out. We're almost to 8,000 members. And hey, do me a favor, if you're watching in the Executive Career Network right now, let me know below in the chat. Also, you may be listening to iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, Google. After we're done going live on LinkedIn, YouTube, etc., we upload it. Do me a favor. If you get any value of this, leave me a review over on iTunes. We are approaching to be a top 100 podcast. I need your support. Or maybe this topic could be just what a friend, a family member, a coworker needs to hear about. Or maybe some executives in the room who have been talking about what I'm going to talk about today. Hey, as always, if you need help in your career, we are over 200 offers this year, 3 7-figure offers. It's crazy. It's crazy. So if you need help in your career, you can go on over to execupgrades.com/podcast and see if maybe we can help. Hey, so let's get into it today. Episode 37, right? Been wanting to talk about this for a while. How is the metaverse going to impact, right? How is it going to impact executives, directors, VPs in corporate America? So maybe we're talking about getting a job. Maybe we're talking about how it's going to affect your team, how you're going to do business. Let's talk about it. So number one, we have moved, right, to what? A remote workforce, a remote environment. I think no matter who you are, let me know in the chat, by the way, if you're on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, right? Have you ever ladies and gentlemen, have you been on a Zoom call before? Let me know in the chat if you've ever been on a Zoom call. Or maybe, are you one of those professionals who are suffering from Zoom fatigue, right? You just got back-to-back Zooms all day because you lead all of these teams, globally or across the, America since, this pandemic is happening. So the metaverse could be on its way of actually curing what we've all been dealing with. So imagine being able to interact with your colleagues or clients in an environment that comes close to mimicking reality. But then in a couple seconds later, being able to take your headset off and glasses and remaining, in your comfortable home. So virtual reality, right? What we're going to soon is going to bring this possibility even closer. And, Facebook, or now Meta, has announced it plans to spend $10 billion in developing its own software around this. So most people, when they think of like virtual reality, what do we think about? We think about video games, right? But this is going to give us new ways to interact with, individuals across the globe in ways we've never even thought possible before. So, while Zoom is typically talking about concerns about, muting, speaking over others, virtual reality is going to enable us to read, social cues, body language. So imagine how much this would impact hiring, right? Being able to sit down in a virtual environment, not just even Zoom, and pull up your pitch deck, have people at a round table, or maybe you're in a boardroom. It's pretty crazy. Number two, we're going to be dealing with faster employee turnover. So if you're a leader in an organization, right, what's been going on, okay? On average, I don't even know, it's like 4 to 6% still continue each month to leave their job. We've witnessed this, right? Primarily when we started this shift around remote work. So anyone who expected the whole world to like return to normal after the effects of the pandemic have now been proven wrong. So many companies realize that allowing their employees to work anywhere opens them up to a whole nother pool of labor. So before, if you lived in a, maybe not a metropolitan city, but you're literally just trying to get the talent from that city, or you're having to pay all of these very high relocation costs. Also, recent figures suggest right now there is a huge amount of jobs posted online that are remote. It's crazy. The metaverse is likely to accelerate this trend. So organizations now are going to be able to, just like I said, interview candidates through virtual reality, face fewer hurdles, and not have to worry about the location. The good news for you is there's going to be more job opportunities. More of these senior level positions are typically harder to come across because of like how specific they are. But the metaverse is going to open up just a whole nother world. However, there's some bad news too. All of this would result in a more competitive job market. Let me know in the chat if you think it's competitive right now. An up and coming professional from the other side of the globe could take your place overnight. So, invest in yourself. Make sure you know what to say when you're going up, on interviews. I know we're not talking about that right now, but it's just going to be increasingly harder, right, to deal with these different things in the future. It is coming. Number 3, brand new jobs. Technology each year keeps springing up and up and up, and new sectors are spinning up. And even though I said technological innovations, right? Every time tech company scales, what do they need? Right? Or other industries scale. They need more people in finance, more sales professionals, more ops professionals, more procurement, et cetera, et cetera. And the metaverse is not going to be any exception. Just recently, me and Kristina were talking a couple of days ago about, if you haven't seen, real estate in the metaverse, we have companies like Nike, right? And so many others. It's freaking crazy. Okay. So with that being said, we're so early in the process, though, it's going to be hard to predict what new jobs are going to emerge or how it's going to impact your current work, but it will. It will inside the next 5 to 10 years, maybe even sooner. So will branding professionals have to consider how they apply their marketing and strategies to the metaverse? What about, get some water, guys, sorry. Human resource leaders. Now we're going to have to do stuff we didn't even think about, like choose what standard operating procedures or policies on what avatars are appropriate during virtual meetings. Now, some of these predictions might be way off. However, as a senior leader, it's up to you to stay on top of these trends, and adapt your skill set accordingly. So many leaders right now, what's one of the biggest complaints I hear across is leading these remote teams, right? It's been a challenge for most professionals out there because they haven't had to do it. Now they're going to have to figure it out. Now we're going to add another layer of complexity inside the next couple of years as well. So how you can combat this, number 4, right? Improve training and, skills development. An important part of being a senior leader is training people on your team to, facilitating their professional development. We've seen lots of innovations recently, such as developmental technology, but the metaverse would really take stuff to the next level. You wouldn't just be learning the theory behind something, you could practice it. And one of the most obvious, applications for doing this is, pitch decks, being in front of a board. Maybe you'll have the chance to give a investor type presentation in front of a simulated crowd, or being able to control a difficult meeting. I mean, things are about to get pretty intense. I know we don't normally talk about these things on this podcast, but I just found this really interesting that, the metaverse and other people, other large companies are developing things that we will be using in the next couple of years. So if you're someone who doesn't like learning new technology, you're an executive that doesn't like to stay on top of trends, you may want to right now, because the last thing I want to happen for all the senior leaders that watch, the Executive Career Upgrades podcast is having to deal with something that they're not prepared for, much like Zoom, much like a remote environment. Again, we're going to add that other layer of complexity. So we are down to, we're in Q2 now. Have you met your career goals for this year? Have you been investing in yourself, in your own leadership development, skill development? Have you been, training your team? How close are you to those strategic goals you set your team on this year? If there's anything I can do to help, please email me at tim@execupgrades.com. And as always, if you feel like you need help in your career, maybe it's been, we're working with someone now who hasn't been on an interview in 17 years because she's been at the same organization. So maybe you don't know what to do. You don't know where to start. You know you're meant for something more. If that's you, go on over to execupgrades.com/podcast, and maybe we can help. Until next week, have a great day.